Yeah. So what you're basically saying is that if your child is feeling anxious or is avoidant, try not to fight them on that and push them beyond a comfort level, but respect them, right? And
Hmm.
validate how they feel. And that will give them, a sense of security, right? Because that's what I know the way your parents parenting you, and that was a huge help for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's great advice. And I would say also, go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right with what you're hearing from past professionals or teachers, then it's probably not right. So go with your gut because it should feel right with whatever you're doing. So that's important. So I know you've shared things like that in the past on panels. And I do think that's a good thought too, because sometimes parents like this doesn't feel right, but they're talking to somebody that might be more educated than them. And it's uncomfortable to kind of listen to something that just doesn't feel real right because you know your child the best, right? Like your mom and dad knew you the best. And you know you now the best.
Right. Yeah, I know they talked about, I know you talk about with Sophie how so many people were making recommendations that just didn't add up to you and you knew weren't true about her. So also that advocacy piece because you know your child the best.
Yeah, and I think what some parents struggle with is if your child is a bit different than you. Like, let's say one of your parents may have been more outgoing than you at the time, right? So it's hard to always relate to why does my daughter or son feel that way? It doesn't make sense. And you have to kind of remove yourself from that because your child is a different person than you. And what makes you nervous or anxious might be different than what makes your child nervous or anxious. And as easy as it is for a very outgoing, extroverted person with younger children, especially in the beginning. And then as kids age, they become more avoidant when they can't do things. So they start pulling back. So kind of just respect where your child is at. And, that's definitely a first place to go. What types of recommendations or thoughts do you have for kids going through this? Say another 6 or 7 year old when they're feeling a certain way. I know you work with kids at camp, right? That's like an eight. You work up to what are the typical ages you work with at camp?
Usually, I've dabbled in all ages, but I've been normally working with the 7 to 9 year olds, and then sometimes the preteens are usually who I'm working with.
Yeah, and so what do you see among the kids when you're working with them? How they're feeling and how do you validate them?
Well, I think it's great when most of them come to camp just to even see them be in an environment where they all have the same issues. They're all struggling with the same things in their school and in their everyday lives. So I really like to emphasize that and have them, rely on each other and even look and see how different they each present. That was something that was really interesting for me coming in from only knowing my perspective and then seeing kids and teens who present completely differently but are dealing with the same thing. That was a really unique part of the experience for me.
Oh, wow. I love hearing that. And you're just validating the whole process that no two children are the same,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
individuals, right? And individuals just present differently. And the key is to understand them